Good morning, Kansas City. Welcome to Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. I'm Kevin Kietzman with you for the next hour, leading you up to the Vince Show, and we got a lot to talk about and jam into 1 hour today, including, boy, a rough weekend if you're a Patriot. That would be a Patriots fan, a Patriot of the United States of America. The Olympics started with a thud, and the NFL said, hold my beer. We can top that. It was just dreadful, and I've got some thoughts on where we're going this year in the United States, because I think this weekend was a precursor to something we're going to see over and over and over. Also, we don't really have much of an update on the Nancy Guthrie mystery out of Tucson. Today is the deadline that apparently letters were sent, the deadline of 5 o'clock today to deliver $6 million in a ransom, or what, we don't know. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that today, but I will share in the next half hour a little bit about a couple of historic kidnappings in Kansas City that you may not know about. In fact, at one time, a kidnapping in Kansas City was the largest ransom ever that was ever asked for. So we'll do a little history lesson today about kidnappings in Kansas City. And, of course, we're going to check in with Mark, who's doing the dance. He's got his wings flapping, his Seahawks wings flapping. Woo! As the Seattle Seahawks were dominant. Clearly the better team, outstanding defense, well played, although incredibly boring. So I'm gonna kind of summarize the whole weekend here as I saw it, and it's probably gonna make some of you mad, but that's part of the deal here sometimes. I tried to watch the opening ceremonies of the Olympics on Friday night. I really, really tried. J.D. Vance was there and he got booed. Because why? Because Donald Trump holds the mortgage to all these countries now in Europe, and he's foreclosing on them, essentially. That's basically what the United States is doing to all these countries. So you've got a sitting vice president of the greatest country in the world, the strongest country in the world, at your Olympic Games, and the people decide to boo him. Okay, that was a pretty rough start. It got worse because all of the reporters in the world want to ask about how bad America is. So they start asking athletes right and left at the Olympics about how bad America is. Hunter Hess bites on it. He basically says that he's got mixed emotions when he puts his uniform on. I'm like, what in the world are you talking about? Don't put the uniform on. Go home. We don't care. Why would you have mixed emotions putting on a United States of America uniform at the Olympics and say, well, I don't really represent my country. I represent my friends and family. You stink, dude. That's so wrong. You can say whatever you want about America. You've got the platform, free speech is golden, all those things. But why would you be competing in that uniform if you have mixed emotions about putting it on? And then you're telling people this on the world stage. An NBC broadcaster named Todd Richards was caught on a hot mic this weekend describing the Olympics as boring. I mean, this was not a good start, and there's just an awful lot of media baiting is what it's coming from. These guys didn't walk up to a microphone and just start bad-mouthing America. They were asked about it. So this is a coordinated effort by the leftist global media, and they're doing this. They do it at the Olympics. But then the Super Bowl had to double down on this thing, and they provided us with an incredibly boring game. Like the Super Bowl finished third behind people talking about Bad Bunny at halftime and the commercials. The actual product, football, finished third. We've never needed Patrick Mahomes more than we needed him last night. I mean, this was, all due respect to Seattle, Mark, I know you're a fan of the whole thing. Dreadful. Awful. I think Sam Darnold may have done the impossible. He may have actually won a Super Bowl and not make the Hall of Fame. This was the fifth team he's been on. He threw for 200 yards. He basically, his elite play last night was he didn't turn it over.
Yeah,
and
field
Drake
goals
May
and
did
defense,
3 times.
baby.
Well, right. Drake May turned it over 3 times. Sam Darnold did not. So this was Marty Ball. We remember this in Kansas City. And what we remember about this kind of football, both these teams, what we remember about this style of football was it was never good enough to win a Super Bowl. My good friend Stan Weber, who's the smartest analyst I know, has told me for 2 months that there is no great team in the NFL this year. That there's just a lot of good teams, and anything could happen. And he lamented the fact that the Chiefs didn't find their way into the playoffs, because if they could have even sneaked in as like the 7 seed or something, this might have been a year where they could just steamroll people, because it just wasn't some sort of elite field out there. Well, we saw that in this game last night. And I don't know how it benefits the NFL to have their biggest audience and biggest stage and be the third most talked about portion of the telecast, that the game finishes third. I'm not sure. I know the NFL with Bad Bunny, they were going for a global audience, a Spanish-speaking audience, and they got it. I'm sure it delivered. I'm sure there's people all over the world that were watching Bad Bunny, and it was a big, huge success. He was the most downloaded artist on Spotify in 2025. He beat Taylor Swift in 2025 in downloads on Spotify. So this guy is a huge star, whether you like him or not. He's a massive star. And that's what the NFL is all about, is basically showcasing their brand, saying we're elite, we're the biggest and the best. But in doing so, it certainly felt like a kick in the groin to conservative Americans, to patriots, to the Trump administration, to everyone. And I just don't like the NFL being involved in this. And when I got the vibe this weekend, I started asking myself, I was just a little kid in 1976 for the bicentennial, but I'm sure we have plenty of listeners in this audience that were around then and remember what that was like and how patriotic it was and how red, white, and blue that entire summer was, that entire year, the bicentennial of the United States of America. And here we have a president who wants to bring that back. He's developed an IndyCar race around the Capitol this summer. We've got the World Cup coming here. He's going to have a UFC fight on the White House lawn, right? He's planning the biggest celebration in the history of celebrations on the 4th of July. It's all about America 250. We've got artifacts and museum pieces coming to Kansas City, the World War I Museum. They're going to be on display and toured around. This is a really big deal this year, and here's why I'm so disappointed about this weekend. I feel like the powers that be in the media and in politics want to ruin this, that they do not want to celebrate America this year, that the last thing that I guess the NFL's in on this too, but the media, certainly, in the narrative that's pushed, in the questions that are asked, and the things that make headline, they want to ruin America 250 for Donald Trump. Not for me and you, although they don't like me and you because we vote conservative. They don't like that, but they really want to wreck it for Trump. They don't like that he does big, beautiful things. They don't like that he's doing a new addition to the White House that's going to be spectacular and build a ballroom that's needed. They don't like all of these different things that are just bold initiatives, the tariffs, everything that's so far good for America, and we're seeing it play out, and good for most Americans, not all. Some are hurt by the tariffs. Some businesses have been hurt by the tariffs. I get that. It's not for all, but generally it is good, and everything that's happened over the last year has been good, and all they want to do is run around the globe and ask people how bad America is. What do you think about how crappy we are now because we're not part of this globalist elite of these European countries? It's disappointing to me because if people on the left in this country cannot join with the rest of us and celebrate America being 250 years old this year with some outstanding celebrations and just feel good about your country, in the history of your country, no country's ever been perfect. We've made mistakes, but boy, we're the best there is. We're the best there is at every. We are the least racist country on earth. That never gets said in this country. We are the least racist country on earth. That's just a fact. Hard fact. And trust me, there's a lot of racism on this planet. There's a lot. There's a lot of bad things going on in a lot of bad places, but not here. We're getting it right, and we do it right. And what I get this weekend, a whole lot of nothing. I got athletes complaining about the uniform they're putting on for the United States of America. I got hot mic announcers calling the Olympics boring. I get my vice president booed in Italy. I watch a halftime show in Spanish. Are you kidding me? Why? I didn't expect the NFL to jump in and say, hey, we're on the Trump train. It's America 250 or anything like that. Although it would have been nice to say we're the marquee event of the year. This is America 250, to see that sort of theme instead of how many flags did we see? We saw the American flag with about 30 other flags in the halftime show? That's it? You're trying to be the Olympics? Man, when I was a kid, the Olympics were a big deal. And I don't know anybody. Well, Mundo said he watched a whole bunch. I just don't know people that watch the Olympics anymore. It's so the opening ceremonies were, the whole thing just felt like Davos or something, where all the elites get together and they do their thing and It's all one world, one God. No, 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 no. I'm not for one world, okay? Let me just tell you who and what I am. I'm for American exceptionalism, and we use our exceptional country status for the good of the entire planet because we are fundamentally really good people that have it right, and we would love to export that. The Super Bowl halftime show and entertainment forever has been about exporting American exceptionalism. And we've just gone away from it. We don't even try to do it anymore. They don't even try. We're not seeing it with the Olympics. We didn't see it with the halftime show. And we certainly didn't see it with a football game that stunk out loud. It was not a good game. It was not entertaining. And the NFL does have a problem on their hands today in that if you're trying to get new fans by having a halftime show and you bring them to a football game, maybe for a lot of people, that's the only football game they watch all year. And they walked away from this one going, I don't get it. It's no wonder I don't watch football because there wasn't much to see there. Love to hear your thoughts. And really, if you have any thoughts on what you think this year will look like, because I want America 250 to be a thing. And I'm terrified that these leftists in the media are going to wreck it for all of us, that they're not going to allow Trump to really celebrate America 250 and be joyous and revel in the greatness and the exceptionalism of this great land. 913-408-7957 is our phone number. This is Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio.
From Leewood to Liberty, it's Kevin Kietzman, Uncanceled, on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
All right, we're going to get right to the phones here in a moment. I wanted to make a point. If you've seen the video of the fan that ran on the field last night at the Super Bowl, it was pounced on by security guards. It made me think about how critical people have been of ICE agents, because when ICE agents take people down, and we've seen that, it wasn't nearly as many as this. There must have been 12 dudes laying on that guy after they got him to the ground. It's a good thing they weren't ICE agents, or we would have had rioting at the Super Bowl. Indeed, it would have been the case. Let's go to the phones, and we'll start today with Fred in Kansas City, Kansas. Good morning, Fred. How are you, sir?
Hi, Kevin. Every NFL game I've ever seen or been to, they start the game off. The pregame includes a color guard that presents colors. They say the Pledge of Allegiance. They say a prayer, and sometimes they have a military flyover. Then they turn around and give us in this Super Bowl a Spanish language halftime. They have to cut the network had to cut the lyrics from the Green Day show where they said F America. Why don't we get an apology from the NFL for trying to be this global thing with all these foreign games and then bringing it into America for the Super Bowl, where they don't even apologize for one of their entertainers getting paid handsomely who says F America? I think the F in NFL stands for fraud. But hey, the taxpayers can keep building these people new stadiums. What a joke.
Great call, Fred. Thank you, sir. I echo many of those sentiments, and it seems simplistic to say this, but I'm going to say it because it's true. Almost everything going on in America today revolves around Donald Trump. Almost everything. And that's what this was. They were just waiting for the president to post what a disaster this was, how awful it was. They just want to upset him. It's crazy. It is just absolutely crazy. And I guess the NFL's saying, listen, 40-some% of the country hate this guy, so we might as well do this stuff and acknowledge those fans too. But the pregame ceremony, the flyover, the national anthem was all spectacular. It was there too. It was there to be had. But, man, did they wreck this one. Jeff is in Shawnee. Hi, Jeff. What's up in your world today?
Hey, wonderful here. I like to talk about two things. The first thing is the Super Bowl. Wouldn't it have been nice if Trump could have took out 3 minutes of time and bought some time there and had Ted Nugent come out, play the Star Spangled Banner, and then him go on about, crime's down, the lowest it's ever been, carjackings are down 60%. Wouldn't that have been wonderful to just take the time out and have a big American flag in the background?
Yeah, wonderful and expensive, but he did a pregame interview that was on. I did not watch it. It's typical that the president sits down and does an interview before the Super Bowl, so he did that part. But yes, it would be great to have had more than that. When the Budweiser commercial stood out like it did, it probably shouldn't stand out that much. The one with the horse and the eagle, the bald eagle flying off of his back, was just a spectacular spot and gives me goosebumps every time I see it. But yes, we definitely need more of that, and it's an absolute shame that the NFL feels some need to do stuff that's controversial, and it really takes away from the game. And it's the only business I can think of that kind of cedes its business to another industry. They turn it over to music and, of course, the commercials. And that's what everybody's talking about today is the halftime show and the commercials. Nobody's talking about that game. We never needed Patrick Mahomes as much as we needed him last night. All night long, I said, oh, man, I wish the Chiefs were playing the Rams right now. How wild and fun would that be? Mike Vrabel, thanks for the call. Mike Vrabel, the coach of the Patriots, and I think Seattle wins either way because they're the better team, but it was dumbfounding to me that he didn't try anything all night. They just stayed the course with their game plan, trying to ground and pound it and trying not to turn it over. There were no trick plays, no gadget plays. They didn't give him they didn't give Drake May any more help in blocking. They didn't do anything. I mean, seriously, that 4th and 1, I'm like, boy, this would be the time for the fake punt. Nothing. Nothing until desperation in the fourth quarter, and I just didn't get it. You clearly needed to do something different and New England didn't even try. And maybe you'd have failed. Maybe you'd have, more turnovers, and it would have been even worse. That's all possible. But you don't know if you don't try. And I think that the most disappointing part about the football aspect of that game for me was the Patriots. And I know that Chris Collinsworth made a reference in the second quarter, like, are they phoning this thing in now? Have they just decided we're the lesser team and we're not? Like, it literally felt like they were not trying their hardest in the Super Bowl. And I know in New England the coaches are catching heat today. They are. And Seattle's an excellent team. They're Super Bowl champions. But nobody's going to look at them like a dynasty team or think Sam Darnold is the next Patrick Mahomes or any of those things. He's on his fifth team, for crying out loud. Nobody's ever been on a fifth team at quarterback and won a Super Bowl. They're a good team, but in New England and really everywhere, there's a lot of fans of a lot of teams thinking, wow, we could have won this year. This could have been our year because look at what we just watched last night. And I like Vrabel as a coach, and I know his players like playing for him. But, man, the lack of creativity, the lack of in-game change. It reminded me a lot of the Chiefs Super Bowl against Tampa, where the Chiefs just got taken out of their game, never really got a foothold or tried anything, and just completely and utterly frustrating. It was a bad game. It was a bad game to watch, and I suspect that's why so many people are talking about the halftime show and, of course, the commercials. So there you have it. All right, when we come back, there's no real update on this Nancy Guthrie situation in Tucson. But over the weekend, I wrote a newsletter for my podcast patrons, and it had to do with famous kidnappings that have happened. 2 of them, historically, were in Kansas City. I'll share that with you next on Uncanceled.
From Lenexa to Lee Summit, it's Kevin Kietzman, Uncanceled, on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
Welcome back to the show. A couple of stories we'll be looking forward to this week include the SAVE Act in Washington, D.C. The House is expected to vote on this. 83% of Americans believe you should show a photo ID when you cast your vote in an election. 83%. Of course, the Democrats are fighting this tooth and nail. Even 71% of Democrats agree you should have to show a photo ID. Chuck Schumer has said in the Senate this is dead on arrival. I would say if our government can't get something passed that has 83% support of Americans, we have a huge government problem. We've got a real problem in this country. If 83% of Americans want something to be done and it doesn't get done, they'd better find a way. Whatever they got to change the rules of the Senate, whatever they got to do. This is huge. We've got to require a voter ID for the national elections, for president, House of Representatives, and Senate. We have to have that. It just has to be done. Also, Donald Trump mentioned on Friday when the Dow Jones hit 50,000, he's predicting the Dow Jones Industrial Average will be 100,000 by the end of his term. Well, if he does that, go ahead and carve out a spot on Mount Rushmore. And whoever the Republicans run in 28 will win in a landslide if the economy is that good 3 years from now, that the stock market is going to double in the next 3 years, yeah, we're winning every election. It won't be close, trust me, if he's right on that one. I don't know. I mean, they talk big. This is all because of the tariffs and the investment in this country and the trillions of dollars that are coming in and the foreign companies that are building plants and coming in here and doing things because they can avoid tariffs by doing it here. All just makes sense to me, and we'll be along for the ride. We hope the economy is that great. Now, as you know, America's paying attention to this Nancy Guthrie story in Tucson. It's been over a week now since she was taken from her home. And according to the authorities, you heard the update in the news just a couple of minutes ago. According to the authorities, they basically don't know anything. Now, I also know that in a case like this, you maybe don't want everything out there. If you have somebody in mind and you haven't published that or stated that or whatever, there's part of an investigation could be going on that it could hinder that. So I guess we'll take them at face value and feel like this thing's at square zero and they have no idea where she is or who's got her or what's going on. That's kind of where we are. And the more we followed this story, the more experts you will see say that this is very rare. In this day and age, kidnappings are very rare because I think they said something like there's a 96% chance you'll get caught. There will be a mistake. There'll be something in the digital footprint, something somewhere. You will eventually be caught. And a buddy of mine was my neighbor, Dr. Jetmore. He's a colorectal surgeon in Kansas City. He called me up and was like, man, I'm so into the kidnapping history. And started talking about the Lindbergh baby. And I'm like, the Lindbergh baby, I kind of remember hearing something about that or studying something. This was 1932. Charles Lindbergh, the aviator, had a farmhouse in New Jersey. And Charles Jr., the baby, was taken from the second floor of their home. It was a national story. It went on and on and on and lasted, basically a whole year. They wound up with a trial of a guy named Bruno Hauptmann and convicted him, although there are still people today that don't think that he necessarily did it. And I noticed that there was kind of a sweet spot of kidnappings in the 1930s. And, I think a lot of gangster movies you see maybe are set in this time period and things like that. So a lot of this was going on. There were two high-profile kidnappings in Kansas City, one in 1933 and one in 1953. In 1933, Mary McElroy, 25-year-old, was taking a bubble bath when Walter McGee and Clarence Flick grabbed her from their home in Kansas City. She was the daughter of the city manager of Kansas City, Missouri. So I think we know where we're going here, okay? It's the city manager's daughter. They kidnap her. They wind up a few weeks later on what is described as a lonely open road in the middle of nowhere in Kansas, where the city manager takes $30,000, hands it to these two guys, gets his daughter back. They shake hands like it's a business transaction. The whole thing sounds to me like the city manager owed somebody some money, and this is the way they're going to collect it. Mary McElroy said, they didn't harm me. They didn't assault me. They didn't do anything. They were perfectly kind gentlemen. Like they just needed their $30,000. They were picked up about a week later in Amarillo, Texas, with 4 associates that helped them. All 6 were convicted. So again, they didn't get away with it. But the wildest one and the saddest one involved a 6-year-old boy whose dad, their last name his name is Bobby Greenlease, and his dad was a big car dealer in Kansas City. And Bobby went to Notre Dame de Sion, the school, the Catholic school. And a woman just walked in one day, her name was Bonnie Hetty, and got to a nun and said, I'm Bobby's aunt, and I'm here to take him wherever. They let her walk out with him. The boy apparently didn't say anything. Good little 6-year-old Catholic boy isn't going to cause any trouble, right? They tell you to go with somebody, you go with somebody. She gets in a taxi cab with this kid and rides away in a taxi. The taxi driver, his name was John Hager, would later testify against Bonnie after she had been caught with the man that they abducted with. His name was Carl Hall. This is a really terrible story. This was premeditated murder is what it was. They'd already dug a shallow grave in St. Joe where Bonnie lived. And apparently Carl lived in Kansas City. And they got the boy and they drove on 69 highway in Kansas, and they killed the boy in the car. It's just terrible. And they had raised the $600,000 was the ransom at the time while this was going on. And the car dealer in Kansas City was paying it. It was the largest ransom in the history of the United States. And he gathered up the $600,000. And get this, in Kansas City, Missouri, the police stole half of it. A police officer stole half of it when they were giving it to these convicts that they wound up catching. They fled to St. Louis. They caught them there. They brought them back for trial. And we did things better in 1953. These people were caught, tried, convicted, and executed within months. It all happened in the same year. But that's just a terrible story. I don't have the context of why this was a premeditated homicide. They dug a shallow grave to bury him in St. Joe in advance of the kidnapping. It was very, very strange. As they were attempting to get the largest ransom in the history of the United States, $600,000, which is about $7 million today, is what they're saying. So a little bit more than the Guthrie ransom that's taking place. All right, to the phones we go. We've got Mark in Independence waiting patiently today on KCMO Talk Radio. Hi, Mark. How are you?
Hey, Kevin, I always enjoy listening to you and Mondo, and I get tidbits and history and things that normally I don't get. And I'm going to make a tie-in here. If when that little boy was to be turned over, they got kidnapped, maybe if they would have had picture ID then, he would have been kidnapped. The nun wouldn't have turned him over. Okay.
Yep.
So that being said, I'm 69 years old, come from Waco, Texas. Down there, when you use the word ball, it means one thing, football, okay? So I also watched the first Super Bowl, was a big Chiefs fan because my dad lived here, was a TWA pilot in Kansas City. Well, I'm telling you, the NFL keeps up with their wokeness and the insults and the high ticket prices and the extortion over a stadium, my viewpoint. As much as I love football, I tell you, there's 2 things I love even more. The first one is my manhood, and the second one is my money.
In that order.
Yes.
Oh, you made my day, buddy. Great call, Mark. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
He's got his priorities right, doesn't he? That's fantastic. I love that. Yeah, a lot of people are lashing out at the NFL today, and it's like they knew it was coming, so none of this surprises any of us. We've been talking for months about Bad Bunny and how bad this was going to be and what it was going to be, and the NFL obviously welcomes it. They welcome the controversy. They welcome all the, it used to be fairly organic. We had the nipple slip one year. Was that wasn't Paul? Who was that? Was that
Janet Jackson?
Janet Jackson. And who was she singing with?
It was Justin Timberlake pulled her shirt off a little bit.
Justin Timberlake. Little too grabby with Janet Jackson. But that's a controversy. That's the kind of controversy maybe you want. And you want that. This was just in your face to the fan base of the National Football League that we don't see you today, all right? We're going to provide you with a game, and that's it. We don't see you. And I just – it's weird. It basically detracts from what their main business is, which is football. And the NFL does that regularly with the Super Bowl. And look, it's harder for all of us this year. The Chiefs weren't in this thing. We're used to having the Chiefs playing deep into the playoffs. So maybe just as Kansas Cityans in general, we weren't as engaged this year in any of this. But the football quality lacked a lot too, man. I mean, the Chiefs weren't very interesting this year. They were boring, so maybe that's where the game is headed. Maybe the defenses have figured things out. Maybe that's what's happening. in the NFL, but I sure miss the days of turning on my TV and watching Patrick Mahomes run around and throw 50-yard passes downfield and Tyreek Hill jumping up and high-pointing them and catching them and just wild endings to games. I needed some of that, and there was not much of that in this postseason. But the Seahawks are the champs, and their defense was certainly just tremendous in that football game, no doubt about it. A couple of other news notes today. In Florida, they have passed a new law for driver's licenses. I like this. This is after the illegal alien trucker made that illegal turn and killed those people. Do you guys remember that story a few months ago? And they're basically saying in Florida, if you want to get a driver's license, we're going to do English-only exams. They will provide you nothing in Spanish in Florida to get a driver's license. You must speak the language and read the language to get a driver's license. I'm good with that. Now, that doesn't stop them from getting them in Pennsylvania from Josh Shapiro or California from Gavin Newsom. And I don't think there's going to be any federal law along these lines that could be passed, English only. But it would be something to consider. And today's the day to talk about it after that halftime show. It would be the day to talk about it. So I applaud Florida for that move. That's a good law in Florida. In Japan, they had some elections over the weekend. Takashi Sane is their prime minister. And she's as conservative as they get. And they have 465 seats in their House, the House of Representatives. 198 of them were conservative until this weekend when they re-elect the entire balance of the House. The Conservative Party won 316 of the 465, creating a supermajority in Japan. Japan is now more conservative than we are across the board in everything that they're doing. This is happening in a lot of places. A couple of countries have turned in South and Central America. There are people watching what's happening in the United States, and I suspect they're seeing it online as much as anything else. And they're like, hey, that's pretty good stuff that they believe in that country. And it's happening in places, which makes it all that more frustrating to sit here on a day like this after a weekend like we had where we got Olympians bad-mouthing putting the uniform on and the Super Bowl doing a halftime show in Spanish and all this other stuff. The people around the world want freedom and democracy, and they look at American exceptionalism as something that they aspire to be, and they want that. And we're sitting here through sports exporting trash, that we're garbage. We got people in Italy saying, my country, I don't believe in what's going on in my country. I don't believe in it. And then a Super Bowl show clearly not for English-speaking Americans, all in one weekend. All right, we come back. We're going to let Mark do a little victory dance. He is so excited the Seahawks won Super Bowl 60 and Allen Fieldhouse tonight. Whoa, Kansas hosting number 1 Arizona. They're 23-0, undefeated, coming into Allen Fieldhouse tonight. That's up next on KCMO Talk Radio.
Vince Colonnese here, and I'm coming up at 11 after Kevin Kietzman on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
All right, the Vince Show is coming up next, and we're checking in with Mark Van Sickle, the happiest person in the building today, a Seahawks fan. What'd you make of that thing, Mark?
The first half went about as expected, low scoring. I thought there'd be a little bit more second half, and there was. But the defense, the field goals, the lack of scoring was a little bit off until the fourth quarter.
It felt like, at least I felt, it was like a little bit like watching a Royals game. You know, when the Royals have these games where they get runners on third base with nobody out and they don't score.
Yeah.
You know, they have all these stranded runners and all these opportunities. It sort of felt like that could have happened to Seattle in this game. But, man, New England just didn't try anything. And I know Seattle's defense was great, but were you surprised that New England just kind of stayed the course as long as they did?
Yeah, I thought they were going to do a little bit more, maybe throwing a trick play here and there. Like, Drake May was just getting hit so much. The offensive line wasn't doing him any favors. And, I mean, they tried to mix in a few things late, but it was just too little too late at that point.
Okay, so I try to ask interesting questions. Who do you think former Patriots coach Bill Belichick was rooting for last night?
Seahawks.
I think you're right. I think so, too. Did you see him at the North Carolina Duke game on Saturday night?
I saw his girlfriend.
Okay.
I didn't see him.
She was wearing a T-shirt. His 24-year-old girlfriend was wearing a T-shirt that had artwork on it. It was from Orchids of Asia Day Spa in West Palm Beach, which is the day spa where Robert Kraft got arrested for having them provide sexual favors for him. Does everybody remember that story? The owner of the Patriots?
Mm-hmm.
She's wearing that Orchids of Asia T-shirt. I couldn't believe it. And Belichick's sitting right there next to her. And they're just out in the open of their hatred for the guy.
Totally trolling him. Totally.
Unbelievable. And, I mean, will Belichick ever get back there? Are they going to bring him back at some point and honor him or what? I mean, it feels like that thing is broken. But not our problem, I guess. Not our problem. Did you have a favorite commercial? I like the Goodwill Duncan commercial.
Yes, that was my favorite for sure.
Yeah. How many stars were in it? It went so fast I couldn't count them all.
I mean, let's see. There was Ben Affleck. There was Tom Brady, Jennifer. I could go through them. Probably at least 12, though.
Yeah, there were Seinfeld characters, Friends characters.
Urkel, I think, was in there.
Who was it?
Steve Urkel.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. No, it was really a clever spot. I've never seen Goodwill Hunting.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't know why.
Classic.
That's what I've heard. Yeah, I don't know why I haven't seen it. That movie is 29 years old.
That makes me feel old.
No kidding. That's just crazy. That's absolutely nuts. Tonight at Allen Fieldhouse, the Kansas Jayhawks are hosting the Arizona Wildcats, number 1 in the country, 23-0. Arizona's about to get their first loss. True or false, Mark?
I think that's true. I mean, seeing Bill Self 38-0 in big Monday games at home, and then KU being an underdog at home, you don't see that very often. I think KU's going to win it.
I do too. I like their chances of. I felt like it was, it's good to get the win on Saturday, but they didn't play their best, and everybody knew that they were clearly looking forward to Monday. And I know we've had a couple of moments this year where some Kansas fans almost some did give up on this team earlier, and they were just frustrated that Darren Peterson wasn't playing, and then they didn't look good. The defense wasn't quite right. Now they're on a 7-game winning streak. They look like they're just a team that's capable of not playing very well and winning by 13 or whatever they won by the other day. I think they play with their hair on fire tonight and absolutely bring it. Arizona is a 2-point shooting team. They don't shoot a lot of threes. They don't score a lot of threes or shoot a lot of threes. I just don't know how they're going to get much done down against Flory tonight inside. I think this is going to be a really tough matchup for Arizona on the offensive end because KU's defense is really bringing it.
I agree with that. Could this be the game when we get the Darren Peterson 40 points? All the other freshmen in the country have a 40-point game. This could be Peterson's moment.
Yeah. Boy, I'll tell you what, the college basketball was in good hands Saturday night with that Duke-Carolina game. That was a wild finish to that one, and I suspect we're going to see some wild stuff in this ballgame tonight at Allen Fieldhouse. I'm very much looking forward to it. The Missouri Tigers won over the weekend. Mark, they're still alive. They're 15-7. They're 2 games over 500 in the SEC. Only 4 teams have more wins in the SEC than Missouri. I don't think they're a tournament team today, but if they finish 5th in the SEC, they're going to be in the tournament.
They should be, yeah.
I know they're a weird team because you want to give up on them. They're not consistent enough, but then they go on the road and they won easy, and now if you just look at their resume, they've beaten Florida, they won at Kentucky. Missouri's making a case. They're there. I don't think they're a great team, but they look like they could get there.
Bubble team that's approaching being in, I think.
Just got to keep winning. It's always how you finish in college basketball. You got to finish the darn thing off as strong as possible. Kansas State blew one on Saturday, the typical Jerome Tang outcome of a game. They had a 4-point lead with a minute to go and didn't score again.
That was rough.
Oh, he's such a horrible basketball coach. You can't even put into words how bad Jerome Tang is. And I don't know how, they're going to owe him $18 million to fire him, and I don't think they have it. So, you know what I've been saying? Fire the athletic director. If the athletic director put you in this spot, it's the athletic director that should go. And then maybe you have to stay with Tang one more year. I don't know. College basketball will be our focus as sports fans now, and the Royals report to spring training this week. Noticed that Bobby Witt was at the Phoenix Open this weekend, so he's already out in Arizona ready to go. Can't wait. That means the crack of the bat is just around the corner. Here comes the Vince Show on KCMO Talk Radio.